Hi, I'm Carmen Kinnunen. Here's my ID. If I remember and I can, I will invert this when I'm done so you can see that easier. But I'm going to be reading the Kinnunen School of Philosophy to you, and then I will be talking a little bit about the research and writing process of it. But the purpose of this assignment was to write about which two philosophies reflected in the Midnight Library we believed best represented what we thought it meant to live a good life. So I'm going to read my essay to you, and then I will start talking a little bit about the process of writing it and the research. The Kinnunen School of Philosophy. What does it mean to live a good life? It's a question that's been asked for forever and has many different answers. Some believe doing what you love is the key to a happy life or being popular and successful. Philosophers have spent their lives studying these types of questions in hopes of forming answers, while Nora Seed from Matt Haig's The Midnight Library went through several lives searching for her own answers. In The Midnight Library, Thoreau's philosophy on finding companionship in your own solitude and Bertrand Russell's philosophy of being part dead when scared of really living support what I believe it means to live a good life. Being comfortable in your own solitude and presence is an important part of being not only happy in life, but comfortable too. Everyone is alone at some point in their lives. It's inevitable. Where Nora was at in her life, she had essentially no one close to her. She was alone. Her cat Voltaire was dependent on her, but once he died, she couldn't handle the feeling of being alone. For example, when Nora returned to the library after finding Volts dead for a second time, she had immense pity and sorrow for herself. I have no one left, not even poor old Volts, who died because I couldn't look after a cat properly. I want to die. My life is a disaster, and I want it to end. I also believe it's important to be comfortable in your own presence from my own experience. After the COVID-19 pandemic, I ended up switching to online school for 3 years of high school. I had a hard time being alone when I first switched to online school. At first, I struggled with everything. Doing schoolwork was hard, and doing anything physically and mentally was hard because I felt so isolated. Once I began to feel comfortable with my own presence and myself, it felt like my entire life improved drastically. Spending time alone can only be done correctly if you are comfortable in your own solitude. According to the article, choice matters more than others. Choosing to be with other people is more consequential to well-being than choosing to be alone. It has been found in studies that spending time with others doesn't always cause a good well-being. It has also been found in different research of solitude's contribution to well-being. Time alone arises in these studies as an opportunity to relax, regulate emotions, and reflect on one's life, thus enhancing, consolidating one's selfhood. Spending time alone can give a chance for self-growth and regulation. When in your own solitude, you are recharging yourself and reducing your own anxiety and stress. Interacting with others, whether you know them or not, can be very draining, especially depending on your current mental state and conditions of life. Having time to yourself gives you a chance to rebuild yourself back up while also generally reducing anxiety and stress, allowing you to completely rest and recharge. Another part of being happy in life is not to fear living. If you spend all your time fearing to really live, you won't ever get the chance to live. I believe fearing life was a problem Nora struggled with in the Midnight Library. In her life with Ash, she felt it was the life she belonged in most, and even began remembering previous memories she had not really experienced in her lifetime. She was happy and even began to love Molly, her daughter, in that life. But once she realized it was love that she was feeling, she began to fear it, and ultimately driving a wedge between her and that life. I also have struggled with being scared to do normal things like simply going to school, but once doing it, I saw what I was missing. I went back to in-person school for my senior year of high school after doing online classes for 3 years. It was a very hard decision for me to make, as I had a big fear of migrating back into school life with all of my peers. A lot of the students I had previously already went to school with at one point, and I even still had a couple friends that went there, but I felt I was completely behind compared to everyone else. I decided to go back for my final year of school to help with adjusting to college life easier and make friends before graduation and maybe even carry on into college. I was terrified to go back, but once I did, I fell into the similar school routine that everyone had, and it made me feel even more normal than when I did online classes. I realized how much of life I was really missing and regretted not going back sooner. There are many different answers for what it really means to live your life well. Everyone has their own opinions on what to do and what it means that have been shaped from their own experiences and theories. The key to living a good life was best shown in The Midnight Library by David Thoreau's philosophical theory on having a companionship in your own solitude, and Bertrand Russell's philosophy on being part dead when you're scared to really live. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about the research and writing process of this. So, in my first original essay, before writing or adding research to it, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about based off of my own personal experiences. And it was a lot easier to write because a majority of my original essay was about my own life experiences. And when getting feedback on my first essay, it was suggested that I should have at least 3 body paragraphs, and I only had 2 at the time, 1 for each of my philosophies. And when adding research, I did end up adding a body paragraph which explored further on Thoreau's philosophy of life, or Thoreau's philosophy that I believed in. And before deciding to dive deeper on Thoreau's philosophy, I tried to look for a database that backed up both of my theories. So I tried to look for one to back up Bertrand Russell's theory first, but I actually had a lot of trouble there. I couldn't find one that I could fully understand well and that I was confident in, as I was one that backed up Thoreau's theory. And it didn't exactly say what I wanted to exactly portray in my essay. But that honestly was probably the hardest part of this entire essay, was that I wasn't confident in my second source, so I just ultimately ended up exploring further on my first philosophy. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast of the Kinnunen School of Philosophy of Life, and listening to the process of writing and researching it. I hope you learned and understand that I believe the key to living a good life is reflected through David Thoreau's philosophy on finding companionship in your own solitude, and Bertrand Russell's philosophy on being part dead when you're really scared to live.